Okay, great guys, thank you. So super exciting. We have a lot to cover, so let's dig right into it. So the big issue with asset managers, as Daisy has mentioned, is the regulators are asking for a lot more disclosure, right? Starting off with the SEC, we actually worked with the SEC, I think it was in 21, to showcase what the cutting edge in technology was that was possible to monitor and report on what the companies are doing in ESG. And Kirti, if you're on, maybe you want to throw that report that we put into the SEC in the chat so people can look at it. The one thing the SEC is saying is if you have an ESG label, and I'm sure you guys have seen, they've cracked down on mislabeling, they've cracked down on greenwashing. The big issue behind this is the end users are not super comfortable with if a company is labeled or a company is given a certain score, let's say Tesla versus a GM, why is Tesla being ranked a D and why is GM being ranked an A, right? So they want to make sure that whatever is being ranked, whatever is being measured is consistent, objective, and comparable across all the companies. So asset managers obviously have a lot on their hands, and now they have an additional requirement to report, right? So it's like, what is it? So it starts off, what asset managers have to do is they have to say, if I'm investing in a company, this is the ESG strategy I'm using. It might be investing in companies which are better at water measurement, might be investing in companies which are key custodians of biodiversity, who have a big biodiversity focus. But before you do any of this, there could be 50 of these metrics that you want to monitor. For us, it always starts the same way, which is with baselining. Before you start investing, if you're investing, let's pick an oil company, ExxonMobil, you want to baseline, and the baseline has to be accurate and it has to be verifiable. So baselining for us means you take a year and you establish this. These are the real numbers that the company has come up with. The second thing you have to do is you don't invest in isolation. You might have a strategy saying, I'll only invest in the top decile of oil and gas companies. How do you do that? You have to benchmark Exxon against the other oil and gas companies. In this case, it might be benchmarking against an American company like Chevron or against international companies like BP or Shell. The third thing an asset manager has to do is continuously monitor the company. Instead of waiting one full year to figure out what the environmental impact is, using ESG signals, you can do monitoring of your portfolio on a weekly basis, and we'll show you how it works. Once you have the monitoring and you know these are the real numbers, you can take that data as an asset manager and engage with the portfolio companies, which is really the holy grail, right? If you're an ESG manager, you want to have an active engagement with the company in a collaborative fashion, and then change the policy, show the company, look, this is what we found, and this is what we did. And I'm sure all of us are familiar with what happened in Exxon, with a lot of board change because the shareholders were not happy with the way the company was proceeding on ESG disclosures. I don't need to repeat it, but Larry Fink and BlackRock did a very good job. I think it was 2020 when they started beating the drum on ESG and saying, listen, ESG data is very important. ESG data, you also have to use the data to come up and measure your short-term, medium-term, and long-term risks, right? So in the end, the reason they're focused on ESG is not because it's an environmental issue, but because it's a market issue and it's a capital markets issue, right? A lot of the work that they've done, a lot of the reporting that has been done on the basis of TFCD, which you guys, I'm sure, are familiar with. It's run by David Craig. It's the Task Force for Climate-Related Financial Disclosure. And what's interesting here is we're actually working very closely with TCFD, as we are with some of the other organizations that Desi mentioned. ISSB is the International Sustainability Standards Board, and we work with them as well as the regulators to showcase what is possible. The big takeaway, at least from my perspective with what Larry is saying here, is that the data that you're getting has to be objective, real-time, and comparable. That's what will make it really, really valuable for asset managers.